I've had the privilege of growing up with disability in my life. My brother has autism, and I've not really known a life without disability in it. The language we used at home was probably very different to how my peers or friends talked about disability at home, if at all, really. I wouldn't be the person I am today, and probably going into the profession of teaching without the upbringing I had. Because of this, I came to Carly Finlay's edited book, Growing Up Disabled in Australia, from a very different perspective. From an early age, I was acutely aware of the differences that people perceived, both my brother and I. One difference was probably how people would talk to either of us. There's a voice that people put on, unfortunately, when they are talking to people with disability. It's as if they don't think that person can understand them fully, so they sort of talk in like a higher octave, slower speech. I've come to realise that if people do not have contact with people with disabilities at all, really, they sort of approach people with disabilities as if they are alien and they don't know how to communicate. This is reflective of a number of the stories in Carly Finlay's edited book. I will never fully understand the life my brother lives. This also goes for students that are coming into your classroom. You're not going to get a full picture of what is happening at home, what they're having to deal with, the things that they are bringing to the table when they come into your classroom. This relates to the concept of social capital, so the relationships that we build with our students. We want them to be strong and have them trust us. But the only way we can do that is approaching them in a way that you are open to, like I said, what they are bringing to the table. A question I got asked a lot when I was growing up, and even now to an extent, is how autistic is Joshua, my brother? I don't know how to answer that. I will probably never understand how to answer that. In the foreword of Carly Finlay's edited book, she talks about the medical mode of disability, and throughout the book a lot of authors talk about the social mode of disability. Humans like putting things into boxes. The issue with that is not everyone fits into a box. By putting people into boxes, you are limiting their abilities and their prior knowledge. The medical mode of disability caters to people with disabilities as a whole and not the individual person. The goal as teachers is to not preemptively judge the students coming into our classroom. I think that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned from the book. One story from the book that I think drives my point home is by Chantel Bongiovanni, called Learning My Place. The first line, "This place isn't meant for you," are words that are echoed in the minds of a lot of people with disability. They hear it over and over again. The teacher discussed in the story, Mr. Robbins, worked with people with disabilities for a long time, but still had such low expectations for people with disabilities. I realised then that for his entire career, he had set such low benchmarks for children and teenagers with disabilities that he almost ensured failure by holding them back. Those letters he wrote to my parents made sense now, the ones in which he framed me as a burden. He genuinely thought I was one. Deep down, he did not want me to achieve, and he did not want anything to prove him wrong. My full potential was better off not being pursued. I feel like as I'm going further into my studies and getting closer to finishing, I watch a lot of programs and TV shows and movies with teachers, and I see traits that I want to emulate and other traits that I want to avoid. I don't want to be like Mr. Robbins. I want to see the best in my students, no matter what their background or what they're coming from or what they have to do to get to where they are. I think my main takeaway from the book is to not have low expectations of the students coming into my classroom, and to be open and honest and accepting of the students that I will ideally get to teach in the future. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something.